Welcome to another edition of Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. We start every episode with a saying of the day. Chancellor, what do you have for us?
Margaret Thatcher said, if you can't stop the bombers will stop you, when she was talking about terrorists. And she's exactly right. We're facing unusual times. I wanted to mention something about the shooting that happened in Austin a week ago Saturday or Sunday morning. And young man, Ryder Harrington, was murdered by a terrorist. And that I talked to his brother, I talked to his sister-in-law, and this was a great young man. You'd been proud to have him as a son or a brother or anyone. He was out with friends having fun, and he was the first person that got shot. And the guy aimed at him, shot him, and killed him, murdered him right there on 6th Street. And it tells you what people that are religious nuts, I've said this before, are the most difficult people to deal with in politics. They think that they know that God has told them what all the answers are. And if you don't agree with them, you're ungodly, and they're justified doing whatever they want to get you straightened out. And that's not a good situation. And that President Trump has made some assaults in Iran. And a lot of people, you look at, they started bombing countries that weren't involved. And if they had a nuclear warhead, do you think they would use it? Yeah, they'd use it. And as they get closer to it, you know, in the past, people had kind of kicked the can down the road and hoped that nothing would happen. And we bombed their facility last fall, and then they're back rebuilding it. And they will not let the United Nations people examine what they're doing. And they want to be held, they don't want any accountability on them. And they want to be held at a distance the way they want to run the situation. And the Iranians not going to go away. The biggest problem we face, it's a conflict that's half the world away. And they've got so many internal groups in Iran that it's almost difficult to get them united, a large majority on something. One other thing that has happened to them, they do not have a Second Amendment right in Iran. And so the people that are trying to take over and have a regular government with the election there, they have no weapons. And so the government has weapons, and they'll shoot people that disagree with them. So it's a tough problem, and anyone that would tell you that it's easy to solve, they're not familiar with all the issues. But the president doing what he feels like is the right thing, and that we need to make sure we stop them before they get nuclear weapons. It'd be very difficult to deal with. If you go back to Jimmy Carter, when we tried to get the hostages out and had the desert accident with the helicopters hitting each other and everything, and I think a lot of people at that time wondered, are we capable? You know? And you look at all the improvements that have been made since then. Yes, we're capable. We went in and took out Maduro in Venezuela, and I mean, that happened in a matter of minutes. And instead of putting in a new government, we just made sure we had input with the old government. Mm-hmm. And that I think the vice president, she probably looked at it, do I want to work with these people and try to work something out, or do I want to get snatched in the middle of the night and be done with? The person that was president, Venezuela, prior to that, I mean, he had indictments in the United States. He had on terror issues that may have come up, but also on drug issues. And I think that the day is over that people think they can take over a country, especially in the Western Hemisphere, and do whatever they want to. They're going to be held accountable. I'll tell you who I would be, if I were them, I'd be very nervous, is Cuba. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you're sitting there less than an hour flight or less than a good fast boat, Speaking of fast boats, the Iranian Navy didn't last long. I mean, they went to the bottom pretty quick. It does tell you how good our military is and how efficient they are and how well trained they are. And you're going to have some deaths, and we hate that. And these people that have died are real American heroes, in my opinion, and should be honored as such. And their families should be honored as such. But you look at all the dictators around. If I were them, I'd be real nervous about being able to oppress people and get by with it, and use all kinds of tactics. But we're moving in the right direction in some of these issues, and there's conflict, and absolutely. But are we avoiding someone having a nuclear weapon that could just sabotage everything that we do and could kill hundreds of thousands of people with one push of a button? And so we're trying to avoid anything like that by stopping it now. And I think that we're doing the right thing.
Do you think that the Ayatollah really thought, no, he's not going to do anything? No one else has ever done anything?
I think that's completely true, but they don't think like we do. And the Ayatollah, he had a straight line to God, and Allah told him every day what to do, and he thought that was the right thing. Like the guy from North Austin, I think he's Round Rock, that was the terrorist that killed all the people on 6th Street. He had the shirt on, Allah rules and
property of Allah. Yeah.
Property of Allah. And by the way, I've got an apology to make. I was off base on a thing that I talked about last week, and I should have brought this up at the first. I had that, the only high school that had 2 Heisman Trophy winners would Woodrow Wilson High School in Dallas. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. But I was wrong on who they were. Tim Brown, yes, he was. And I said Doak Walker. Doak Walker went to Highland Park, and he did not. It was Davy O'Brien that played at TCU, and he was a Woodrow Wilson Wildcat, WWW. You say that www, you then want to say .com. But Ward Williford first pointed out to me, and then, if I'm ever concerned about whether we've got people listening or not, you just get one fact in there wrong and they jump all over you. And so I was completely wrong on the 2 individuals. It was not Doak Walker. He played at Highland Park and then SMU.
And Chancellor, I should have fact-checked that for you. I apologize.
As producer, you should have fact-checked it, and I should have known before I spoke. So I was off base on that.
Well, you want to know if people are listening, just say something wrong.
You say something wrong or mention the wrong people, everybody, oh, yeah, and I got to call him. And it seemed like that everybody listening had my number and going, are you sure about that? The real nice ones. Mm-hmm. Are you sure about that? The ones that are really close to you and say, what the hell are you saying? You're off. You're bad off. And so you had to make some apologies.
Well, correction made.
Today, one of the things I wanted, when we're going through stupid criminals, there's 2 or 3 guys in a gang type robbery in Oakland, in Northern California area, and they were robbing donut shops. Now, just the fact that they were stupid enough to, where do policemen like to go for, a cup of coffee? It's a donut shop. Mm-hmm. And so they've been knocking over donut shops, and that had 6 robberies at donut shops. And they evidently have more cash than some other places. Speaking of cash, the Austin airport, and I've been in other airports that don't do this, you can't buy anything without a credit card.
Right. And
so if you want to buy something, have a $20 bill or whatever, they don't go for that. You got to have your credit card. So we have technology has taken over. Also, one of the winners, and he turned out to be a loser, But this guy, James Farthing in Kentucky, won $167 million on the Powerball jackpot last year. And he was out celebrating, and he got filed on for a felony. He got in a brawl, and he kicked at a police officer and grazed his face, and they charged him with a felony, and then later reduced it to a misdemeanor because he was just celebrating. He was happy and that he had won that kind of money. And they fined him $1,000 and gave him 9 days in jail. And you'd think, well, that probably does it. Yeah. And it did not. He was arrested back in Kentucky on a felony intimidation charge after a woman called. She was at a party at his house, and he threatened her, and he had a gun and everything. And, you know, I know he is happy winning $167 million, but he needs to slow down, you know, or all of his money is going to be spent on criminal defense lawyers and fines. He's ranking right up there with the guys that are knocking over the donut shops in Oakland. Also, you got to keep in mind, there are times you may not agree with someone, but you don't go to extremes. And there was a guy in Florida that was facing a felony battery charge. He went through and he got a cup of coffee, and he took the top off, and he had some words with the person that was taking his order, and he just threw the coffee. It was iced coffee in her face, so it didn't burn or anything. But, you know, they had him on camera. There's always a camera. In this day and time, there's always a camera around you. And he threw the coffee in her face, and, of course, they caught him and prosecuted him, and he got some jail time. There's always controversy. I say always. There's a lot of controversy around beauty contests. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody got cheated or somebody did this or did that. Well, in Oman, they have the most beautiful camel contest. Have it once a year, and that they had the top 20 that they were looking at. Many of them were disqualified, and I jotted down that some had lip fillers, the vets found, and some had Botox, you know, so they wouldn't smile as I would guess it would be, and it relaxed the facial muscles, and but they were trying to fix the camel beauty contest. I think camel's an ugly animal, you know, and that they even inflated part of their hump to make them look better. But I mean, I would hate for having it on my record that I was trying to fix a camel beauty contest. That would be maybe close to the word of insanity.
That's right up there with people trying to cheat in fishing tournaments. When they,
you know, with the big prizes they have, they do that. Somebody's always trying to cheat.
Mm-hmm. They catch the fish and then they put a weight in its belly so it weighs more. And I saw one where a guy got caught cheating. I thought they were going to kill him before he got out of there.
Yeah, the other people.
Yeah, the other fishermen.
And they're tough.
Yeah,
they're tough. You know, a lot of people like to fish. I'm not much of a fisherman. My span of attention's that of a 2-year-old, and but I got friends that love to go fly fishing. You got this little bitty line that you can barely see it, and you got to get everything just right so you can throw your line in and standing there in cold water and cold boots. And I like to watch them. Mm-hmm. You know, I tell them I would sit up on the porch and watch you guys. You know, and I'd applaud for them when they'd catch a fish.
You know what they say about fly fishing? It takes 5 minutes to learn and a lifetime to master.
Yeah, I think that's good. Also, last week and this week, State Departments worked hard with a lot of agencies and a lot of governments to get people back from the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And the president got some criticism about why didn't you implement a plan before you sneaked in there? Well, I think if you'd have implemented a plan before you sneaked in there, somebody might have caught on, and that just wouldn't have worked. There was more than 3,000 Americans that were stranded, and they were able to get out and safely so. USA Today had a story about 2/3 of the teachers in this country have another job. And a lot of that's because if they've got the summer off, they may do something in the summer. Some of it, there's a lot of PE teachers that are also referees, and that, but it's a profession that people don't go into that for the money. I mean, that's important. They need to have a good living, but they go into it to have an impact and influence on young people's lives. And I think back to my teachers from high school and grade school, had some great teachers. I, told stories about Mr. J.O. Seal, the one who whipped one of my friends with a fan belt. And his dad came up and complained about it, and he whipped his dad with a fan belt. And the school board had a meeting on whether to fire him or not. And they didn't fire him. And somebody asked one of the school board members, Clyde Dameron, they said, "Why didn't y'all fire him?" And he said, "Hell, we didn't want to get whipped with a fan belt." But he was a guy that had some influence, and also if you teachers that inspire you or that tell you things. S.T. Newman was a English professor and teacher, and he always said, somebody asked him a question about an exam or something, and he'd say, "The first sign of intelligence is the ability to follow simple instructions. My instructions are simple," and they go back and read them. Okay. He's also the one that one of my friends in high school said, "Mr. Newman, I didn't make a very good score. I made a terrible score. I probably can't go to college." Mr. Newman said, "Don't worry, somebody's got to fix flats." It wasn't a real compassionate guy, but that was pretty funny.
You've talked about teachers, and you've told the story in the past how one teacher really had a huge effect on the Cavazos family, and those brothers that they didn't even speak English.
They didn't speak English when the oldest went to school, and he had a teacher that was not bilingual, but she'd work with him every day, and he'd go home and work with his little brothers and his parents at night. Mm-hmm. By the time he was, they were all in school, they were all speaking pretty good English.
And had amazing careers.
Amazing careers. They had one that was one of the foremen at the King Ranch, had one that was a 4-star general and was vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs Staff, had one that was vice president at Tufts and dean of the medical school, and then later president at Texas Tech, and Secretary of Education.
Wow.
And, they didn't have any government programs. Larry Cavazos used to say, we didn't have any government programs to help us.
Right.
We had loving parents and good teachers in the schools. And they accomplished a lot in a short period of time.
And that's why teachers do it.
Yep, they do it. And I get a lot of inspiration for people that are in my classes that do extremely well. And anyone that thinks that the young people today are not going to be very successful, they just hadn't been around them. They're going to be very successful. Also, a report came out that more people were taking money out of their 401ks than ever before, which is not good because you got to have something there for your retirement. And they had a study in asking people if they thought the economy would be better for them, and 34% of of the people that responded feel like that this year, 26, will be financially better for them. But there were 28% that thought that it would probably be worse. The annoyance economy, that's spam. It's all kinds of stuff that make it difficult for you to operate whatever you're trying to do. And that the study in USA Today showed that annoyance economy cost American consumers $166 billion a year. $8 billion cost on robocalls because you're wasting time on something that's not productive. And $90 billion on junk fees, and $21.6 billion on health insurance. I had a friend that one time they'd call him, "Is your name such and such?" And he'd say, "No, he's died." And they had his name one time. He said, "That's me, but I died." And they didn't want to interview him. One last thing I'd say: the press moves from issue to issue, and sometimes when they leave an issue, that's it. And on Nancy Guthrie and her disappearance, and they've never found her. It's not even. You get to think it's not close to being solved. When the press moved off that story, they just all left, and it becomes an issue that maybe if something happens, they'll cover it for a while. But that was all you heard morning, noon, and night for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they just moved on.
Next thing we hear about that will be breaking news.
Breaking news, and it would be big breaking news, whatever we hear. I think the main thing about terrorists, if you don't stop the bombers will stop you. Margaret Thatcher said that.